everyone, this is Georgia with Georgia's Crafty Creations, and today we're going to put together this Christmas card as a Christmas in July project. I really like finding different materials that you can use on cards and be creative with. So let's get started. Now for this card, what I found at a discount store was a box of paper coasters, and when I saw them, my immediate thought was these would be really pretty on some Christmas cards. Now I did look, these are available on Amazon, so I will leave the link below. But when you're out shopping, look for different kinds of materials that you would never think to use on cards. Coasters, the paper ones, are a great item. So now we're going to get started with our card. For this card, we used a paper coaster. I'm using a Recollections Cozy Lodge paper pack that I got last year on clearance. It's a really nice holiday pad, and I just like the colors for using mats and things on cards. The 6x6 is really great because it doesn't take a lot of paper. So I went ahead and pre-cut my paper. Now my card base, I cut it 9 by 12 inches, scored it at 4.5, so my card is going to be a 4.5 by 6 card. Then my first mat is going to be 4.25 by 5.75. My second mat is going to be 4 by 5.5. And then for the coaster, I trimmed it up a little bit because I didn't like the square shape for this particular card. So I trimmed 1/4 inch off the right side and 1/8 inch off the left side. And it made it the size I wanted for this card. Now for these 4 pieces, I went ahead and rounded just the bottom right hand corner on everything, just to give it a little different there. And then for my sentiment, my mat, I cut it 3 3/4 by 1 1/4. And then the top piece is going to be 3 5/8 by 1 1/8. And I will list all the dimensions below for this card. Now my original card, I used a white base, but I wasn't too happy with it, so I changed it more to a tan colored base for this one. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stamp and emboss my sentiment. And also on the coaster, I'm going to use a Ranger emboss pen and emboss like just a little bit on each of the gifts and on the king's crown and the top of these crowns, just to give it a little bit of texture and make it stand out a little bit. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. I always put a piece of scrap paper underneath just to catch any loose glitter, but I have a glitter pan also. So I'm going to take first, we're going to stamp our sentiment. I'm going to use my Misty for that. Now the sentiment I'm using is from Hero Arts. It's all Christmas sentiments, and I'm going to use the Wishing You Joy of the Season. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to get that placed where I want it. And that looks pretty good. And I have misplaced my magnet, so I just have to kind of try to keep it in place. And we're going to flip that open. And I'm using VersaMark Watermark stamp ink pad. We're going to ink this up really good. That looks good. We're going to turn this and go ahead and get this stamped. And that's stamped pretty good. I'll wipe that off in a minute. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and put my embossing powder on that. And I'm using a gold embossing powder. I'm going to flick off any excess. That looks pretty good. I'm going to set that aside just for a minute. And then I'm going to take my Ranger emboss pen and I'm just going to do a little detail on the gifts. Not the whole gifts, just a little bit, just to give it some interest. And in different spots on each of them. And that's all I'm going to do on that. And we'll get that embossing powder on that and tap it off. That looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Grab my heat gun. And I always let my heat gun heat up a little bit before I start. And there, we are good to go. It's a little crooked, but on this one I don't mind that. So we're going to go ahead and start assembling our card. Let's set those aside for a moment. So I'm just going to take my card base, leave that aside because I want to raise this up a little bit. On this card, if you see, I took the second mat and raised it up. So let me grab my tape. We're going to go ahead and put the base down. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stick the base down where we want it. That looks pretty good right there. And then for the next piece, I'm going to use foam tape to put it down. Grab my foam tape here and a pair of scissors. That one we're going to move just a little bit. There we go. And one down the middle. And we'll go ahead and get that ready. And we're going to get that one placed down. Flatten this out. Then we're just going to put some tape on the back of the coaster. And my tape ran out. So I'm just going to grab my ATG gun to finish this one up. And we're going to place that one down where we want it. And then for the sentiment, I'm just going to run this piece through my little Xyron. Smooth it all out. And we're going to place it on the mat for it. That looks pretty good. Now for this one, I'm going to do 2 layers of double-sided foam tape. And the reason I'm doing 2 layers is I want to raise it up a little more than the other piece. It just gives it more height to it. So there's 1 and 2. And then I'm going to place my sentiment about where I would like it. I think right there looks pretty good. So the last thing we need to do is a little bow for the corner there. Need to grab my ribbon because I forgot to get that first. And the way I do a bow, I just make a couple small loops, take it, cross them over, pull it tight, and of course it's going to be way too big, which it always is when I first pull it, so I'm going to take it down real small, pull it again, pull this one out, and there, I like that size right there. We're going to go ahead and trim off the bottom for our tails. And then I'm going to grab a little sticky dot for that. And then we're just going to stick the bow right there. And then I would also add a sentiment to the inside of this. I haven't done that yet, but you could add whatever sentiment you like to it. So there you have a quick and easy Christmas card made from paper coasters, which makes it really nice. Just highlight it. So once again, when you're out shopping, just look for different items that might work. Something you may never expect would work really great. So I hope you guys like this. If you did, subscribe below, like, and share it. Until next time, have a great day. And